All right, welcome back. Let's head straight to the markets now. Let's uncover what's happening in a local bourse and most of the international markets we track. And we have Aniete Ednet to give us the details. Right here, great to have you, Aniete.
Yes, good afternoon, Ladi. And welcome back from that long vacation.
Yeah, it was quite long.
How long is about a month.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
And so much has happened
exactly.
since I was away.
While you were away, but I know that even though you were away, you were still keeping eyes on the market, particularly your market, which is the crypto segment. Of course, and so many things.
All eyes on the markets, always.
Exactly. And we have several markets which our eyes are always spread across. We are ubiquitous in terms of everything that has to do with news. Okay. So now, let's get started with the markets, the numbers. Take a look at your board there for Nigerian stock market. Yesterday was down 0.24% and losing at about losing more than 101.16 billion naira. But at intraday, the last time we tracked, which is just about 1 hour ago, 0.24%, almost the same margin in which it lost on Monday's session, but this is the intraday number. So these numbers continue to change, and at the same time, it is still struggling to hold on to that 96,000 points, which at some point was almost going down, but the market has been able to still hold on to that 96,439.82 at intraday for the NGX all-share index. That's a benchmark index for the stocks listed on Nigeria's Stock Exchange. And for the Johannesburg Stock Exchange all-share index, 0.13% at intraday, 81,332.69 for that market. For the other markets on the African continent, it's almost bullish sentiment all across the markets. For the EGX there, we see the market printing also in the, it was actually down, and this is because at some point, the consumer price index came in, which had a dent on the market. And for the Kenyan stock market, it was also in the positive terrain for the close of Monday's trading session. As you can see on your board, about 0.25% in the green, 105 points. That's a new high for that market, 105.84. While for the EGX, it was down, as I mentioned earlier, at 30,182.45. And now, we're still with the markets, but this time looking at the fixed income market, where we see the treasury bills, we saw at some point, we saw bullish sentiment and some mixed sentiments across the other sides of the market, even including the Naira, where we saw some appreciation. And at some point, new highs for the currencies market. That's trading against the dollar. But now let's talk more about the market. And of course, what to expect for tomorrow, but starting with today, intraday activities. And we have Caleb Alimi, Chief Dealer with Providence Bank, to give us that detail. Thank you for joining us, Caleb.
Thank you for having me, Aniete. Good afternoon.
Okay, Caleb, yeah, so it's the second week of September. And of course, September is always a month which investors are kind of cautious. So now, can you tell us, give us a brief breakdown of the activities yesterday where we saw at the fixed income market as well as the Naira, where we see it making some gains coming out of that previous losses that we saw last week?
Okay, let's start with the currency. The appreciation we saw was largely due to the CBN intervention. CBN intervened on Friday and on Monday, so that impact sort of curbed rates from further depreciating. We've seen a bit of appreciation. The market continues to expect that they will continue to play their role as, that regulator in that market, coming to regulate the rates when they think it's spiraling out of control. Speaking about fixed income, which is treasury bills, for example, treasury bills has been driven largely by liquidity. Since the start of the week, market liquidity has been sort of negative. And we are beginning to see treasury bill rates, inch upwards due to the liquidity. We're seeing a bearish sentiment along those lines, largely because we're all trying to claw back liquidity. Yesterday, liquidity was around negative 170 billion, and today is around negative 251 billion. So considering the fact that market is negative, we expect bearish sentiments to continue in the treasury bill space. There's an auction tomorrow. There's a primary market auction tomorrow where the DMO will be offering a total of 161 billion across three maturities, 6.7 billion on the 91 days, 4.9 billion on the 182 days, and about 150 billion on the 1 year paper. The last one closed at 18.94%. We think this one will also close around the same rate, or it will inch upwards into the 19% handle, given the liquidity squeeze that the market is experiencing. The bonds market isn't really seeing much activity. It's also bearish, given the liquidity still drives most of the investors' decisions, being the big players in the market. Investors, on the other hand, are also excited about the lower rates. So some of them are still quoting, 20% handle for some of the treasury bills that they want to buy. And a lot of them are just still, holding out to see if the liquidity squeeze persists and if, if they can get improved yields for treasury bills and bonds.
Okay, all right. So now, let's talk more about this intervention by the central bank. Yesterday, we saw the central bank intervening in the forex market. And so you also talked about this second consecutive back-to-back primary market auction. And Nigeria's debt is currently in dollar term at about $91.46 billion and 121.67 trillion naira. So why is the CBN, why is the Debt Management Office conducting this back-to-back primary market auction for the treasury bills?
Well, this is according to the calendar. So what normally happens is every time there's a calendar per quarter, we always have these back-to-back auctions, and then the calendar then resets, to the fortnightly. But once the calendar changes again, once they release a calendar for another quarter, you have a back-to-back auction, and then it resets going forward. So it's nothing special. Yes, our debts, because we run a deficit budget, and given where inflation and other things and the heavy spending by the government, I think we'll continue to borrow. If you look at the price of Brent today, it's declining, and then I think it's going to persist for a bit. So I think this government will continue to borrow, because how else are they going to, finance the budget?
Quite interesting. We'll see how the government manages, its way in funding the budget, and as well as moderating its borrowing and the debt, the country's debt. But so thank you so much for your time on our show.
Thank you, Anita.
Caleb Alimi, Chief Dealer with Providence Bank, giving us details for the fixed income markets at intraday and what to expect for tomorrow. And now, let's talk about the Middle East markets. We see some rally for this market, the Dubai as well as the Abu Dhabi index intraday, 0.71% for the Abu Dhabi and 0.61% for the Dubai market index there, where we see bargain hunting is what is driving this market. For its brothers on the region, we see the Saudi Arabia's Tadawul 0.13% pullback, or we see some profit taking there on the likes of Aramco and so many other stocks listed there, particularly the oil stocks. For the Qatari Stock Exchange, we see a 0.59% uptick at intraday 10,276.26 for that market. And then we move over to Asian markets, where we see the markets being mostly slightly mixed there. The Nikkei 0.16% and the Kospi index 0.50%. And this is coming as the investors are digesting the latest China trade data, where we see the exports there rose by about 8.7% year on year. And that was higher than the growth forecast of 6.5% year on year in dollar terms. And that's according to a poll by Reuters. For Hang Seng Index, 0.22% for the close of Tuesday's trading session. And for the other sides of the markets within the region, we see what we say for the Shanghai, the China's composite was also in the green. And we see what we call the Nifty 50. That's for India's stock market. That's the one of the key benchmarks. We have two benchmarks indexes for the Indian market. That's the Sensex, but the Nifty 50. That's the top 50 industrial companies on the Indian stock exchange, based in Mumbai, and the likes of Bharti Airtel, the likes of Tata, and of course India is the region's fifth biggest economy, or the world's fifth biggest economy to be precise. So we see that the market closing in the green, the two of them, Shanghai and the Nifty 50, India's stock market index. And from India or from Asia, we fly over to the United States, where we see the stock futures mostly flat in the red, and as this is coming after the major averages had made some rebound, so starting of the second week of September in positive terrain. But for the stock futures, which was earlier today, Nigerian time, 0.13% for the Dow Jones, S&P 500, 0.05%, and the NASDAQ index stock futures, 0.23%. And this is all coming at the same time where we see our Indian news there, where we see the likes of Google and Apple facing EU court, and then the EU court has slammed a fine against the two of them for several issues there, where the EU court has come hard on them, ruling against Apple and Google, while Huawei, on the other side of the tech news, just yesterday that Apple announced the launch of its iPhone series as well as AirPods and so many other products that it has in its kitty. That's the latest round of its tech innovations releases. I'm talking about the AI adoption, the AI integration in many of the devices that are currently streaming around the world. Huawei launched a trifold phone just hours, and we see that stiff competition where we see Huawei, which is a Chinese company. Earlier, sometime in 2018-2019, up until 2022, the US had banned the company from from accessing the US market. So this is more like a stiff competition to US-based Apple, which is worth about some $3.3 trillion, while Huawei is just worth about some $30 billion. So Huawei is trying to steal that shine of Apple. And at the same time, we see Alibaba, which is on the Chinese stock market. The shares were up by 4% after the exchange had included it on the China's main stock exchange. So that's it for the global tech news. Ladi, so I know you're well. The silent show of eyes is actually on Apple. Yeah. Because I know you.
iPhone 16.
Yeah, iPhone 16. That's the 16th
right
into the edition.
Yeah, quite incredible. What we saw yesterday with the new products, but definitely. I'm wondering, were the consumers excited with what they saw yesterday? But it seems investors were quite happy. We saw the Apple stock that traded up about 0.41% to close. 0.41%. And we see the tech indexes all up at this point.
Yeah, at the close of Tuesday's trading session, the Nasdaq was up by about 0. But it was in the green. I can't really remember. But it's quite interesting that. Apple is listed on the Nasdaq, on the US market, but Huawei, in spite of the impressive growth, it still remains unlisted on the Chinese stock market.
Yeah, that's
so it's privately owned, and that company is actually trying to make its way in terms of innovation, because the whole world is talking artificial intelligence, from Samsung to Oppo to many of the brands. I don't want to market them, right? But it's called the global.
Definitely a lot to unpack there. But before we continue, we're going to join a live coverage right now in Akwa Ibom State Appreciation Rally for Youth, and that's taking place at the Uyo Township Stadium. But we're still live on other platforms. This is just for DS TV. So definitely, Anita, so much to unpack there. Then we have the launch by Huawei, the trifold.
Trifold.
We're not done with the a regular fold.
Yeah, the regular fold. Yeah, which is actually gaining traction. Yeah, because we have so many tech names. Let's not mention them. But,
right.
But first of all, when the fold came out, we had so many names there. We were thinking, yeah, this is quite an innovation. But right now, the ones that is folded like an accordion, you just simply pull it out, stretch it out.
Quite interesting.
We have one other.
But all I'm worried about right now is how much these items are going to cost in Nigeria. I don't know if you remember a time where you could get high-end phones for at least 300,000 naira, but now you need more naira. It's even more expensive to buy most of these products in Nigeria right now due to naira weakness.
Yeah, against foreign currency.
We need that strength for the naira at this point, so we don't need too much naira to get most of these gadgets. But I know you're a gadget man. Well, I know you're still going to get it.
Ladi, I wouldn't cough out. Guess what? The Huawei is saying that the trifold would be costing about $2,800.
Wow.
For just that. And then the Apple Pro Max will start at about $1,199. I remember sometime last year in December.
We know the exchange rate.
Exactly.
About 1,006, 1,005, depending on where you're buying.
That's several millions of naira.
That's a lot. That's a lot. But thank you so much. And it's always great having your perspective there, covering most of the markets locally and internationally.